Hey, Mike Pachelli here, coming to you from my studio in Nashville, Tennessee. And for this lesson, I'd like to talk about double stops. Now, recently I was at a gig, and there was an opening act, and young band, young guitar player, and they're pretty good, nice and funky, had a little groove. But afterwards, I was talking to the guitar player because I couldn't help but notice that he was playing just bar chords or like ninth chords and single notes, just all single notes always. And I asked him, I said, why don't you, throw in a few double stops? And he didn't know what double stops were. And I was kind of amazed that it wasn't more commonly known. So just in case you don't know, a double stop is just the playing of two notes simultaneously. It comes from, it's a violin term actually, and we've incorporated it on the guitar to mean what it means. But it's just playing two notes at the same time. You could also think of as a double stop as an interval, but some of them are more common and they're very useful to spice up your playing. So hopefully I can shed some light on that. I'm using my Pachelli V-Pick, by the way, which I love. If you haven't checked it out, you can do so at vpicks.com. It's changed everything about my technique, and I strongly suggest you give it a shot because it's 4 millimeters, and the way it's designed, it just makes everything a lot easier. So, okay, double stops. I think I first heard them in like Motown playing. A lot of Motown guitar players would do it, and Muscle Shoals guys too. People that were backing up people like Otis Redding and Wilson Pickett. Like when they were playing a D9 chord, they would play a double stop in fourths, which would be just 5th fret barred across the 1st and 2nd string up to the 7th and back. They move to the G9, stuff like that. Now the beauty of that fourths is that if you're playing a G here, G bar chord, you can play the double stop here. So just those 3 double stops create a whole new thing. On the D, G9, back to the D9, to the G. Right? So instead of just playing straight rhythm, the little double stop gives it a little extra color. Also of note is like when you're on the G, the double stop can be, kind of gives it a country sound by taking the 3rd fret of the 2nd string up to the 5th and then back down. All right. Hear that? Isn't that cool? Nice and easy. But they don't just have to be fourths. They can be any interval. Like usually they're, like if you're playing a G chord, one of the most common is a double stop like this where you play the B and the G. All right? Now that can be thought of as, I guess it could be thought of as 6th. But it could also be thought of you're just playing the 3rd and the root of a chord. And you've heard it in famous songs like Brown Eyed Girl. And the logic behind that is just taking that like a bar chord of G, playing 2 notes of it, the 3rd, which is B, and the root, which is a G, and moving it up scalier. So the next, and I've talked about this in my lesson about modes if you want really in depth of why this works. But if you were to move that up modally, you'd go G, A minor, B minor, C, D, and so forth. So an easy way to use these double stops, like if someone's playing a G, you just playing a C, G, D. You get that? Cool idea. Same thing could be said, I guess, really for songs like Blackbird, which I also teach on the website here. But if you took Blackbird apart, the Beatles' Blackbird, and think about that, I mean, he plays a G and a B, same thing. Just voice different, A minor, B minor, to a G. Those are double stops. And if you thought the same idea harmonically on the 2nd and 3rd string, it would be. That's also Blackbird, right? double stops. Very useful. So again, open second and third string and go up the scale. G, A minor, B minor, C, D, all the way up. So if someone's playing just strumming a G chord, all double stops to add a little color. All right. Now there's a million rock licks you can get into also with double stops. Stay in the key of G since we're there. Take our first double stop on the 3rd fret and you can make it a little bluesy. Maybe a line like, you've heard that, right? So that's double stop, 3rd fret, 5th fret on the 2nd and 3rd string, 3rd on the 2nd and 3rd, and then hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and finish off on a G note there. Very, very simple, but very useful, and I'm sure you've heard that a million times, right? Okay. On the lower strings, I guess if you were taking, like, let's take something like, if we go from E to maybe an A, you hear that all the time, right? You could do that with double stops, perhaps on the 6th and the 5th string, play open 6, 2nd fret on the 5th string, that'd be your E. Or this will be even better. Let's do it from the bar, the 5th and the 4th string. You still got the E and the B, right? And then just hammer on from the B to the C sharp on the 5th string. That would be the A. Because that's the 3rd, right? And the 5th of A. So here you go. E to A could be, right? Hear that? And that again, that slur. Let's take that up. If we go to like the D chord, so you can hear it better. Same slur to the 3rd and to the 5th. Very Hendrix. Like from going D to E. And again, I do a Hendrix lesson on the site here if you want to get even more information on that. That's pretty cool though. I'm going from like E, all in double stops. Huh. Classic Beatles in E. Right? Double stops. Now also with the double stops, you can use hammer-ons quite effectively. So let's go back to our G, that little thing we played. Right? Okay. The double stop of the 3rd and the 5th of G, which would be B and D, to that C double stop can be hammered on quite nicely. All right, hear that? So I'm playing 3rd string 4th fret, 2nd string 3rd, hammer on to 3rd and 2nd string 5th fret. So, but a nice hammer on it. Right? And there's a lot of room for double stops with bluesy stuff. Again, back to G. How about the 7th of the G7th chord and the 3rd? Right? That makes a C7. All double stops. Or hammered on. You can actually play a whole blues with that double stop. Just these two notes, this tritone look. Again, we're thinking G first, which would be the 7th and the 3rd. So on the 4th string, 3rd fret, and on the 3rd string, 4th fret, now that would be the G, right? So if we started just thinking double stops, G7. If we move that down a half step, that makes the 3rd and the 7th of a C chord. So we're going to the 4 chord in double stops. Back up to the G chord. 4 chord. Alright. To get the 5 chord, we raise it up a half step. Now we have the 3rd and the 7th of the D chord. 3rd and 7th of the C chord. 7th and 3rd of the G chord. You can walk that down as they turn around too. Isn't that cool? So the whole blues progression would sound. 4 chord. 5 chord. 4 chord. All with double stops. If you want to take that one more step further, think about starting G9 and this double stop. Now you're the 3rd and the 7th of G, and you can do the same idea exactly and get an entire 12 bars of blues. 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 4 chord, hear it? 1 chord, 5 chord, all with double stops. Okay. One of the most useful ones, and you hear this all the time too, is we'll go back to G and use the double stop by thinking about the 5th scale degree and the 7th, which would be here. Okay, now you're in G. You got a D and an F. And I'm getting on fret 7 of the 3rd string and fret 6 of the 2nd. So you're in G. Double stops. It's also good to use the 7th and the raised 9, which would be just borrowing the 6th fret of the 1st and 2nd string. Now you got maybe with, I like to do this with 2 separate fingers sometimes if I'm in G. So I'm using now the flat 5 here and the 7th. Some guys like to take the 5th fret of the 2nd string and bend that up with the 6th fret of the 1st string. Now there's also like a lot of song melodies based on that very same idea. One of them is called, the song's called Centerpiece. Don't know who wrote it. It's an old bluesy kind of song. But this works really good in just perfect 6th intervals. So if I take the 5th fret of the 4th and the 2nd string, and then the 3rd of the 3rd fret of the 3rd and 1st string, and that's basically 2 moves. So cool. So you could use that with separate fingers or one finger. And you can also put some slurs in there to make it cool. Let's see. Let's see here. Yeah. All right. Isn't that cool? Another one that I love to use is with the root on the, would it be 8th fret of the 2nd string, thinking in G, and now take the 4th and move it up to the 5th. Right? So in G. I love that. You can go. I'm just keeping that pinky on the G up on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and just moving around like a blues scale, you know. Probably never come to a Pachelli gig without me doing that one. And one more cool one would be double stops like on the ending of a blues progression, the very ending, something like. Let me do that better. So I'll put the tab down so you can see that one, but it's all double stops. First note is just the G, then So I hope that helped open your ears a little bit to double stops. And if you'd like to drop me a note, please do so at mikepachelli.com. Always cool to hear from you, and I'll answer every email. So check around the site for more of my lessons. I appreciate you hanging out with me.